This NASCAR Gambling Podcast, AMA edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACE-SGPN to claim your first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACE-SGPN. We are also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL picks and predictions are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Oh,
yeah, let's go.
So jealous. What do you got?
This is from Three Floyds Brewing. I picked this up while we were in Wisconsin. Zombie Dust Undead Pale Ale. It's pretty fucking good too.
Zombie Dust Pale Ale.
Yeah.
That's a great start to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Cody, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Unfortunately, it is 5 o'clock somewhere for me, but my kids are in school, so I've got to go pick them up soon. I will be a little bit behind you.
That's all right. You can have yours later. But welcome in. Question day on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
Yeah, we've never had like a true mailbag edition of this. I mean, we've done like the question, but this is like a straight up AMA like you would find on Reddit. We've already got some people that have asked questions to us in the Discord.
Questions. Yep, Discord. They're already rolling in on the YouTube. Keep them coming. We're going to get to probably every question you ask. So get them loaded up, and we'll hit them as we go along here.
Yep, of course, we are in the middle of race week. I know this is kind of a weird time to have it, but we did want to give you the Cup Show a day early since odds were already out, and we figured we'd let them marinate. There were some fantastic deals. So I don't even know if they're still there.
I've not looked today, but hopefully you got in on some of those. So I'm certain that some of those things have moved. But we had all the options out there on the table. Might as well get it out on Monday, give you an extra day, let you get him in earlier. You can listen at your convenience, of course, if you weren't able to catch it live. So that's always nice. But now we're kind of in a weird spot because Truck Series odds are not up yet. So we don't have Truck Series odds to talk about. DFS's salaries are not out, so we can't go that far. Underdog picks aren't out, so kind of in a holding pattern. Obviously, we talked last week about all of the future stuff, so we could have took the day off if we wanted to, but we didn't want to do that, Rod. And this is a great opportunity to just again field questions and ask away. It's we don't get to do it a ton, and we'll try to get to questions throughout the shows as we're going along in a normal week, but we're not always able to get to everything. So this is a really great opportunity for that.
Yeah, it's not that we don't. Obviously we know that we love interacting with everybody that's live, but when I to break the. I've listened to a lot of podcasts lately that have made the big shift to video. Right, they're definitely solely a video oriented. Looking at you, Fantasy Focus. They've turned their attention to video away from audio. So when you're listening to the podcast, you're just kind of like, well, I can't see the graphic on the screen, guys. I'm sorry. Can you explain what's going on to me? So I would never want to take away from the audience that made us who we are, and that's the podcast audience. So if you're watching on video, you came by way of the audio, most of you guys. So I'd never want to take away from that experience because to me, this has always been an audio podcast. This video portion has just been, an addition within the last year that we've tried to grow a little bit. And so That's where we're at. That's why I don't try to tend to tailor it to video, except for instances where we're cracking open beers and everything like that. But
that's why I held it up by the mic. Hopefully that'll come through on the podcast audio for you.
It did. It made me thirsty. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to it.
Me too. I better take another drink.
You better take another drink. Well, I tell you about the Sports Gambling Podcast. They just launched their 32 NFL team previews. And as a bonus, each team preview is going to include. Can you say include a code word? That's maybe I need a couple of drinks of that. It's going to include a code word. You submit the 32 code word phrase, and you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and the SGPN app. I want to start right from the get-go. Nick Fortune checking in on the set. Good afternoon, Hot Rod and Sir Cody. So I guess we've settled in on names now, Cody. We've officially become Hot Rod and Sir Cody. Can we have a moment to discuss the Brandon Ayuk trade? This isn't ask me anything. We did say that we would answer any and all questions.
Well, and potentially involves both of our teams making a trade. Obviously, the trade has not happened yet, but yeah, both of our teams are involved. So, Rod, as the 49er fan, what are your thoughts on potentially losing Brandon Ayuk?
Pain. I've watched so many good players leave the 49ers, and it's just a tough thing to watch each and every time because, as a fan, you get so attached to them, and as a fantasy player, you get attached to them as well, and the production that they've had with the team. But, for Brandon Ayuk, this is like watching Terrell Owens go to the Cowboys, essentially. I mean, it's not as vitriol as, watching him go to the stupid Cowboys, but by the same token, it's like, oh, and by the way, Justin, if you're listening to this, I ripped into your Boise State team last night. He texted that he was playing college football, and it was Boise State taking on Nebraska. For some reason, I thought he was Nebraska, but I was like, beat those stupid Boise State guys on their dumb blue turf. And Justin was like, whoa, I'm a Boise State fan. And I was like, well, still do it, but I don't care.
It was a close Husker loss in Justin's game there. So been there too many times, unfortunately. But yeah, so, if Brandon Ayuk were to go to the Patriots, right, the reports kind of started trickling out last night that the Niners have the deal in place with both Cleveland Browns, which you potentially get Amari Cooper, which is probably a better deal for you guys.
Yeah.
And then, or with the Patriots. Now it sounds like there's maybe some other teams in the mix too, as they kind of continue. Other teams are like, well, hey, wait a minute. They're actually going to trade him? We'll get in the conversation. So I would love to see it as a Patriots fan to get Brandon Ayuk. Not going to be great if you have him for fantasy this year, probably. But to set up, really as a Patriots fan, we don't get wide receivers that are good too often, right? We kind of have our homegrown guys, the Edelmans, the Welkers, right? But like Randy Moss was kind of the last big good wide receiver we had. And Ayuk is not Randy Moss. I get that. But he's an established, solid, strong wide receiver. To bring that in for a brand new rookie quarterback, I think would be great. Honestly, it sounds like you might get Kendrick Bourne in the deal, which not a great deal for you. I think he played for you guys before anyways.
Yeah,
exactly. But like Matthew Judon is unhappy. Ship him to San Francisco for Ayuk. I think that'd be a good deal for you guys, a good deal for us. And long term for the Patriots team, I would love to see something like that to help out that young rookie quarterback. So we'll see. I think that potentially, Cleveland would be an interesting fantasy option when it comes to that, if that's where he were to go.
Yeah, Brian checking in. Brian Twine saying the Niners offense does not operate around Ayuk, nor relies upon him. It's 100% scheme based at the wide receiver position. They'll be fine.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like you've got CMC maybe, although he's hurt already. I don't know if you saw that news today, Rod. We'll see how that goes. But you got CMC, you got Kittle, you got Samuel still. You just drafted, was it Pearsall right in the first round? I mean, and it seems like they've been able to plug other guys in those positions over the years. It's a very prolific offense. Anyways, I don't know that it uberly hurts them to lose Ayuk. I mean, really fantasy-wise, probably helps Samuel and Kittle and even CMC maybe if they're more, focused over there. But in Brian saying calf strain, they're just bubble wrapping him for the regular season, which would be smart. Hopefully that's all it is. Again, fantasy-wise, I've got a few shares of CMC already, so I would like to see him play. But always tough when you see a guy like that is injured early, and it's like, oh boy, hopefully not something that kind of lingers around. Hopefully he'll be good to go, for the season.
Yeah, I mean, we know that CMC has had his injury issues, which is why he's with the Niners right now. So my brother checking in saying, I feel like I've tried that one before. Cody, talking about your beer.
Yeah.
That's one we're thinking of. It's
It's
damn good.
yeah. So here's the can, which is pretty sweet looking, right? The zombie dust, got the little zombie guy on there. It does say brewed in Indiana, so not a Wisconsin beer necessarily, but I've never seen it around here. So I picked it up when I was in Mississippi, or in not Mississippi, in Wisconsin, because it looked cool. So there you go, and it's actually pretty good. So nice, delicious beer.
And I will say that, my brother has been to Indiana, so he might have tried it while he was in Indiana. So that's definitely a good shot right there, which, by the way, fine. Let's do this. My first question to you, Cody, when you decide you just want to drink a beer, what is that beer that you just decide you want to drink? Not going crazy with it.
I mean, it's a lot dependent on the situation, right? Time of year, situation. We're getting to fall. The beer, fall beers are coming out. That's my top favorite, right? Oktoberfests are my favorite. Local brewery here in Lincoln called Empyrean. Their Aries Marzen is top notch. That's probably my go-to kind of fall beer when it comes to that. Sam Adams Oktoberfest, a close second place. That's always really good. Big pumpkin beer guy. Call me whatever you want, but I love pumpkin flavored things. So I do like this time of year for that. If it's hot, just got done mowing the lawn or something, Summer Shandy is definitely the go-to there. I think that's always a good, refreshing one. And if it's just, hey, we're having a beer, Miller Lite, I work for them, but it is just really good beer. I like to just sit back and enjoy Miller Lite. The aluminum bottle can things, those are the way to go. Keeps the beer nice and cold. Just tastes better coming out of there. So I know that was sort of multiple answers, but it's all situationally dependent.
I mean, we've come to expect multiple answers out of Cody every single time. We're used to this by now.
I gotta cover all the bases, all right?
Yeah, you do. For me, I'm more. I love IPAs. I'm that guy. Like, I just don't know what it is about him, but it's not because I like them because they're trendy. I like them. I like the fact that they get hoppy. I like the fact that there's a decent alcohol content in there. It's not like drinking water. And so for me, there's a local brewer around here called Firestone. And 805
actually is we sell Firestone Walker out of our distributor here. So
there you go.
It's pretty cool that they're local for you.
Yeah.
I wish we could get the 805 because it's not available here yet, but
the 805 and I've been to the brewery before and had, multiple Firestone brands straight out of the tap. So it's always a great experience when I go there and drink them. And I love just 805. I mean, if I'm going to grab a beer, if I'm going to just reach in there and say, all right, this is a beer that everybody's going to enjoy, it's 805.
Yeah, Firestone Walker, great brewery. Keep dropping those questions too in the comments. We see them rolling in. We're definitely gonna keep getting to those. But yeah, to stay on the beer thing real quick, like being in the beer business, I try a lot of different beers. It's sort of part of my job. So I enjoy all the different styles, the IPAs, the dark beers. Like we get a lot of samples and whatnot. So I enjoy trying all the different crazy, wild and new things. And when we go other places, like when I was up in Wisconsin not long ago, I like to pick up different stuff and sample what they've got up there. So it's always good.
And that's the thing for me too. Like I enjoy trying new things. Like anytime I venture out, I just love to try new things. And what they've got me going on now is the damn labels. Like if these labels are all catchy, like I'll grab it because it's like,
yeah. Well, look at this. Why do you think I picked this one up? Look at this can. I mean,
yeah,
it's got a zombie on it. Like it looks pretty cool. And he's like in an army helmet even. Like, yeah, that's one of the reasons. I mean, it sounds like a good beer too, and it is. But that's why I picked it up. So there you go.
Such a sucker to advertising, which is exactly why. Hold on, we're gonna get there.
Okay, we're getting back to Walter here in a second.
I'm ready to answer a ton of NASCAR questions, but again, because I'm a sucker for advertising, it's my turn to give you some. Oh, not the crickets, Rod. Maybe I was drinking too many of that. I'm ready to give you Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy just launched Underdog Streaks. Hit your first 2 pick'em entries and then go streaking. Hopefully you'll do it fully clothed because I don't think you want to get arrested. But if you can get an 11-0 run, you can win 1,000 times. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. They just added another college football contest for best ball too, so get on over there. You can also use specials and boosts on all flex entries. We're going to give you all of our favorite underdog fantasy plays later in the week for the Richmond race coming up, so make sure you stay tuned for that episode. Sign up with our promo code RACE-SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACE-SGPN. We are also brought to you by Game Time. I hate buying tickets. You hate buying tickets. Everybody hates buying tickets because guess what? It has gotten extensively harder over the years. You can't just walk up to a counter anymore and say, 1 ticket, please. Now you have to either buy it on your phone or you have to buy it online in the actual line itself. Does it sound stressful? I hope I'm making it sound stressful because it is. But guess what? Game Time, taking out all of that stress. You can buy last minute tickets for a decent price. You can actually purchase them on your phone without a hassle. You get low fees, you get better prices, you get the Game Time guarantee that's going to guarantee you all those tickets are authentic and they're right there on your phone. I'm telling you right now, it's the best way to buy tickets, so make sure you do that. You get flash deals, you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals, and you get the seats ahead of the event. You even get a picture of where you're actually going to be sitting, a picture of looking at where you're going to be looking at when you're sitting in those seats. It's just the best way to do it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code SGPN for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Cody. Well, you brought up a question before I hit the break, and it's Walter. He's asking us, Rod and Cody. Well, I mean, I'm Roddy too.
Rod's just making up nicknames for himself now. Roddy.
Actually, that's
Roddy and Cody.
that was my nickname growing up. Everybody in my family, in fact, my family still calls me Roddy to this day.
Oh,
so
well, I might start doing that too. Okay,
you should.
Roddy and Cody, give me your way too early 2025 Cup Series champion.
We know
Rod.
Cody's.
You know my answer. Who's my answer?
Tyrone Gibbs, bro.
You know it. If Tyler Reddick doesn't get it done this year, then next year is his year. But it might be still too early for Ty Gibbs, but we'll see. I will 100%, 99.9% be betting on Ty Gibbs next year to win the championship. So there's that.
That's a tough question. Because I feel like it should be one of the Gibbs guys. It should be Denny. If it's not Denny this year, then it should be Denny.
I mean, it's
right.
Yeah. And it's so many things change between now and then, but I feel like I'm going to be on the Tyler Reddick train for quite a few years going forward. I know for sure I'm going to be on the Tyrone Gibbs train for quite a few years going forward. So yeah, I'm going to say that Tyler Reddick is your 2025 Cup Series champion.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that if Denny doesn't get it done this year, then I think Denny gets it done next year. But it's tough, man. I mean, yeah, that's Brian saying, let's get the 54 into victory lane first, sir. I mean, yeah, it's true, though.
Well, yeah, details. We got to worry about stuff like that, right? But Jessica checking in. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Jessica. Nice of you to join. James Rowland checking in. Hey, buddy. He says, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck? He didn't write the rest of the things out, but how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, Rod?
No, but if Spire Motorsports chucked Corey LaJoy.
Yeah, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if Spire Motorsports chucked Corey LaJoy? He also says, go Cowboys. I think that was right after you were taking a dig at the Cowboys earlier. So, yeah, we're not big Cowboys fans. It's actually in our contract with this network, we have to hate the Cowboys in order to work here. So that's part of the deal, but that'll happen when the guys who own the place are Eagles and Giants fans. But I don't really know if that's a question, but
it is a question. Look, I'll tell you right now that if Spire Motorsports, when they did chuck Corey LaJoy, like this is a matter of, can they get better? And we talked about this in the Futures episode too. And can Corey LaJoy? Well, first of all, where does Corey LaJoy go? That's the question. Like, where does he end up? And is this going to be a good landing spot for either Corey LaJoy or the team that he lands with? Right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff to go into play here. We know that the 7 team is trying to get stronger, and they didn't think Corey LaJoy was the answer to get stronger with. So what does that mean now? And what does that mean for Corey LaJoy?
Yeah, so let's stick on this because Will dropped this question yesterday in the chat, and we mentioned we would do it today. His question was, who drives the 7 car in 2025? So shout out to Will Riney, and we'll get to that question here as well. So who do you think does drive the 7 car next year? Is that the same person that drives it in 2026? Is that a 1-year gap filler for Kyle Busch? What do you think that they're going to end up doing with that?
I think that the free agent market has started to shrink up a little bit. Like we've already seen the major names fall. A lot of it, yeah. I mean, we've seen the SHR guys go. We're not going with Ryan Preece. Like we're not bringing Ryan Preece to the 7. Although that would be a choice. A choice.
Why would you a choice? Yeah, bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would be.
I mean, why? Yeah, and like. That's the thing that baffles me so much is unless you've got a pretty good idea that you're getting a Kyle Busch or somebody like that. I get that Corey LaJoie is not the best race car driver out there and whatnot, but he's literally one of your first 3 employees there. He's done a fairly good job for you guys. He's helped you build the thing. He's had other opportunities. It sounds from what he was saying on his show, it sounds like he had an opportunity at one point to go race for Junior Motorsports and be competitive in the Xfinity Series, or stick it with Spire and grind it out and be over there. And he stuck it out with them and everything. I just don't understand dumping him a year early unless you've got some type of plan in place. But we've not really heard any reports on the plan in place. So I think there's still some things out there, right? Do you elevate a Christian Eckes type? He's in the Chevy camp already. Cole Custer is going to the Haas factory team. That's already been announced by Joe. So he's staying there he'll be in their Cup program, but yeah, in that one. So I mean, do you bring up a Christian Eckes, keep him in that Chevrolet pipeline over at Spire? Do they still buy out Kyle Busch? I mean, are they working on buying out Kyle Busch's contract? Money doesn't seem to be a problem for Spire. They seem to have a lot of money. It seems like the Andretti's are involved in that. They've got all of the what's that financial company that's part of their sponsorship package, whatever. It's got a shit ton of money too. Gamebridge. They've got all that money as well. They're obviously just shelling out $40 million for the charter last year. Rodney Childers didn't come over for free. They're bringing Michael McDowell. Now they're bringing Travis Peterson, which we'll talk about probably tomorrow more. He's going to come over with McDowell. So maybe they are just trying to buy out a Kyle Busch type still. I really don't have a true prediction on who's going to be in the 7 car next year.
I don't think they have a true prediction. I think they're working on things, but
but again, why Corey was locked up through next year? If you don't have somebody already or somebody in mind, why did you let go of them? I mean, I guess, is that a courtesy to Corey? We're going to let you go now during this break. That way you have time to make your plans. And I guess that does make more sense because I was selfishly thinking of the other side. Why wouldn't you just wait and dump him at the end of the year? But I get the telling him in advance. So, yeah, I don't know. I still think that it's not out of the question Kyle Busch could be in that 7 car next year. Because money talks, and if Kyle's not happy with Richard, if they decide it's a failed experiment, Richard wants to move on. He's got Austin Hill waiting in the wings. Jesse Love is waiting in the wings as well. If Austin Dillon wants to retire soon, whatever the case may be, maybe they just take the money and run, and Kyle goes over there. I'm sort of lost on that.
It's like quitting your job before you've got another one lined up and just hoping that you're gonna. I hope that I'm gonna find one. We'll be fine, and that's it. So, yeah, that's it. I mean, who drives a 7 car? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows right now. So, let's take a question from Brian back there. Are you guys down on Seabell this and the next couple races with Adam Stevens not on the pit box? Kind of talked about this yesterday, and how much of an impact we think that would have. You actually said, Cody, that it may even be better because these guys get a command seat when they get to watch the race on TV.
Well, I just feel like it offers such a different being there in person, there's probably nothing quite like that, right? I think that having that feel, sitting on that pit box is definitely something. But sitting back in the command room, You don't have all the loud everything going on. Everything is right there in front of you. They've already got a command center back there that runs and functions every week. All these guys cranking stuff out. So instead of, hey, I need to hear from this guy. Hey, he can just turn around and be like, hey, Joe, what about this? Hey, Bob, what about that? Like, everything is right there. He can see the bigger picture better, right? He can have multiple angles of TV broadcasts, of in-car cameras. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have 100 TVs set up and there's all sorts of more views and he gets on the pit box. I don't think that it's a bad thing when these guys, that's why when they're suspended and yet they're still calling it from, it's like, they're still pretty much there and part of it. Like they just can't be there in person. What do you do? So I don't think that it's a big thing. And I also think that places like Gibbs and Hendrick are very deep in the bench, right? So this guy that they're bringing up to be the crew for a couple of weeks, technically, even though Stevens is still probably making a majority of the calls from home, basically, he's probably pretty solid anyways. So I don't think that that's a reason to fade C-Bell. I know that we didn't bring him up yesterday in the betting episode, which I sort of wanted to, but again, one of those guys that, it's just the numbers hard and where he's at is a little tough, but I don't think that specifically is a reason to fade him or be down on him or be up on him. I think that really not a ton changes. And there's actually the possibility that it's a little better for them, but who knows?
Well, and honestly, too, when you look at the next couple races, and like Cody said, I mean, the numbers for Christopher Bell, obviously the books aren't scared because the numbers weren't good enough to really put much on him for what we wanted to put on him. And I don't think the next couple of tracks for Christopher Bell are not necessarily crucial anyways. So there's not this intensity to have to get it done. Yeah, they're going to want to obviously score as many playoff points as they can, and they're going to want to win races between now and the time that he gets back. But there's not as much urgency as there in some of these teams. So I'm not seeing too much. We're not down on him because of that. We're just down on him for the normal reasons that we'd be down on anybody. I don't think that really factors too much into what we're talking about. Boji Joe saying this is the old sideline coach versus press box argument. I can see both sides of it. I don't like when coordinators are up in the box because it just, I don't know. It doesn't feel right.
How much better can you see the game from up there? Like there's an argument to both, right? To being in there and feeling it, and for Stevens not being in the garage, touching the car and talking to Christopher Bell in person. Does that change things throughout the weekend, right? It definitely could, but at the same time, when you're up in the box, you can see the field better and you can notice differently. I think it might be a good chance for him to get a different perspective on things, whether that helps pay off for them this time, during this time or not. I think that it could for sure.
Indeed. All right, we'll answer more of your questions on the other side of this, but let me tell you first about Rhythm. Football season is here, and the college football and NFL models are now live on Rhythm. Create your own winning bet model or let Rhythm do the heavy lifting for you. You decide which stats matter most to you, and Rhythm builds a custom model around that, or just let Rhythm and its predictive model do the heavy lifting. Rhythm uses AI projections from MIT data scientists. Rhythm already has you covered with NFL Week 1 and college football Week 0. So claim that 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Just imagine the regret that you'll feel if you win your office Survivor pool and you didn't even enter the Circa Survivor. Shame on you. Don't feel that shame. Also, if you don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football, Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go out and hang with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sportsbook in the world, August 22nd through August the 24th. You can use promo code SGP15 to save 15% on your hotel room for sign-up weekend. You can sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with Circa Sports between now and then. We have a deal with Football Contest Proxy. So go to proxy.footballcontest.com to save $50 with promo code SGP. Okay, Cody. I know that there was a bunch of questions. Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay up in the chat so I don't lose my spot. Boji Joe said he thinks Kyle Busch goes back to the trucks with his own team. He will do that when Braxton Busch is about 16 years old. So I think Braxton is 10, 11 right now. Give it a couple of years. I think that Kyle will start a new Truck Series team at that point, and be able to race with Brexton. But he definitely wants to stick around and do that. And like, let's not forget, Kyle Busch is not that old. I know that this has been a rough season for him, but he won 3 races last year in RCR equipment. We're not that far away from that. He's inches from a win this season. He's won 19 years in a row. I hope he gets another one to keep that streak alive, but he's still one of the best drivers that we've seen in ever, really, in the entire NASCAR series. So let's see.
If Kyle Busch is old, then I'm ancient. Let's put it that way. I'll tell you.
Preston checking in says, "What is up, my dudes? Made it in time to listen while I'm stuck in traffic on the way home from work." Welcome, Preston. Preston did submit a few questions, Rod. So
sure did.
I think now would be a great time to get to those. Yes, he originally said he wasn't going to make the live stream because work says they need me more than my wife and dog. So I'll drop some questions here. You tell work what's up. This is more important than work. So let them know. But he said, what are some tracks you'd want to keep on the schedule with 2 races? Have another track to hold 2 events, or would you rather bring other tracks on to make it closer to 36 different tracks? So that's been an argument that a lot of the shows like Corey LaJoie, Ryan Flores, guys like that, they're always kind of talking about, I think every track should have 1 race, and that's it. You don't go to places twice. So, and I think Flores' argument is like Daytona, Talladega, Martinsville, like some of the like key ones that have always been around, right? Those are the ones that should get two dates. Because like Richmond, a good example, we're coming to this weekend. Should Richmond have 2 dates, or should we be trying to go somewhere else? Now, the problem with that is there's not a ton of other places to go that are already established, although there is some, right? Chicagoland is just sitting out there. It's still there. It's still raceable. It's just sitting there. And same with like Kentucky Speedway. So there are some other places. And then obviously there's the Rockinghams and those types of places like North Wilkesboro's recently come back. So what are your thoughts on trying to have less duplicate dates, Rob?
I'd be okay if we did Daytona only once. I feel like when we start with the Daytona 500, no. Listen, here's my thinking on this.
Don't take away my super speedway tracks to bet on, Rod. I will not stand for this.
You will not besmirch my
turn Texas into a super speedway and give us another one.
Well, okay, we could, like we've doing with every other track out there that wants to be a super speedway. But I feel like Daytona, when we started, the Daytona obviously in the spring to start the season is iconic. You can never ever do it with that. It's the one that's going to stick around forever. But when you go back to Daytona, like you've already well, get out your drink, Justin. You've already blown your wad in the spring. So you're already, the pomp and
but it's Daytona. Like,
I understand that
NASCAR racing better than Daytona.
It's not a popular opinion, but I'll say if you want to do that, then give them 1 race, right? Because then you can blow it up and make it the biggest thing in the world, and then try something else. Like I know we've got how many super speedway races now? We got 6 because of Talladega twice, Atlanta twice, and Daytona twice. So now that we've introduced Atlanta as a super speedway, then that's just too many super speedway races, in my opinion. Like you need to go other places. And so I would be okay with that one losing 1. The one that I think you'd need to keep is probably Bristol twice. I love Bristol. I think that's one that you should be keeping twice. I mean, other than that, like, I wouldn't be heartbroken.
Like there's so many arguments for both sides, right? A lot of times if there's 2 races, crowds aren't as good for both, but how much does the actual in-person crowd matter? I'm telling you, Rod, the TV numbers matter a lot more. So, and then there's places like Kansas where it's like, they would probably draw better numbers if you just go to Kansas once, but the racing at Kansas has been better than anywhere else lately. So should we take away a second race at Kansas? Well, no, because and they tried to do that. The Roval has been sort of an example of that, right? We used to go to the Charlotte Oval twice. Well, instead of doing that, let's do 1 on the Oval and 1 on the Roval. Well, the Oval racing's been great, but the Roval racing hasn't been good. I wish they would just go back and do the Oval a second time. So,
well, that's like the Daytona Road Course. The Daytona Road Course wasn't all that great either. So that's why they did away with that.
It was horrible. So
my brother's on my side. They only run Indy once a year. As for the Indianapolis 500,
they have like 6 races throughout the entire season. So
I know we're in the middle of it.
But I do. I mean, so like they've added Iowa to the schedule, right? This season, that was a massive success. And from the schedule that Bianchi kind of leaked today, looks like that's going to remain on the schedule going forward, which is great. So I do think
Fontana comes back in whatever form Fontana comes back in, right? There's something
right.
there.
That's another track. Yeah. And like, especially NASCAR is just so late to react to things. Like right now, where we're at in this next gen car, intermediate tracks are where it's at. You have Chicagoland and Kentucky just fucking sitting there. Stop wasting time for when we get to the point where this doesn't work anymore on the intermediates. And that's because that's where we've always overcorrected, right? It was, well, road courses racing has become great. Well, we slowly waited and add stuff. And then by the time we added them all, well, the road course racing wasn't very good anymore. And for a while, intermediates weren't great. Short tracks were. Well, we took too long to add North Wilkesboro back and some of these other places. So it's one of those things where let's go get to Chicagoland next year because it's there. This car's been running good. We don't need a second Richmond date when the racing isn't as good. I think that, and it can fluctuate more. I don't think it has to be where maybe Richmond has a second date every other year or something like that. So I think that's yeah. Well, anyways, I think we talked enough about that. Next question from Preston. He did submit a few here. And he also tossing in the chat here, used to go to cup races of both Kentucky and Chicagoland as a kid, both worth having on the calendar, even if they go back and forth every other year. That's another thing too. You don't have to go to the same tracks every year. Yeah, you could sprinkle in somewhere else every other year in Iowa gets a race or whatever the case may be. I think that things like that would not be a bad thing by any means. Do you think the order of tracks location-wise is good now, or would you like more regionality across the board? One thing off the top of my head, not necessarily good one, but example, Daytona, Homestead, Atlanta, Dega, Nashville, Indy in a row since they're all close by. I think, yeah, I don't know that. I guess that you could look at it multiple ways, right? Probably better for the teams if you stick to tracks that are close together. Not as good for the fans because if you're able to go to both those races, might be tough to go to them back-to-back weeks, right? So spreading them out might be better there. If you've got, two tracks that are fairly close together, and if you run Kansas one week and then Iowa the next week, like, yeah, it's great to have everything in the Midwest back-to-back, but it's going to be a lot tougher for me to get to Kansas one week and Iowa the next week, where if they're spread out, I've got a much better chance to make it to both. So I think that there's kind of different ways you can look at that.
Well, and also from a travel standpoint too. I mean, this is not like F1 where they fly all their stuff across because they're going from different country to different countries. These guys are driving haulers across the country. So I'm sure when they lay out the schedule and they're like, all right, these guys got to drive X amount of hours because they can't drive more than a few at a time without having to stop. I mean, there's so many regulations on how far they can go in a span. So, I wouldn't even begin to know how to schedule it. That would be a nightmare. I don't even want to attempt. So I like the schedule the way it is because I don't have to do anything but watch. So that's what I like.
Exactly. Okay, a couple more from Preston real quick. If you were a racing driver, what's your dream race to win? If it's a crown jewel, what's one further down the board that most people wouldn't say?
Funny, I would pick the 600. I would pick the 600 because it takes endurance, because it takes skill, and that's a tough one to win. I know that Daytona, everybody wants to win Daytona. Everybody wants to have that trophy. Everybody wants to be the winner in there. But we talk about it all the time in super speedway racing. It's like 85% luck, and you have to be in the right place at the right time. And the drivers will say the same thing. They're like, anything can happen at Daytona. They always say that. They're always like, well, but anything can happen at Daytona. That Coke 600, you have to be the driver. You have to be the one in command, because luck almost has nothing to do with winning a 600-mile race. And just driving 600 miles in a circle would be kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, and so I think, man, it's so tough not to say the Daytona 500. It's the Daytona 500. If you're talking about NASCAR, the Daytona 500 is the race. Yeah, there's a lot of luck. Yeah, there's skill. I get it, but man, I think I would want to win the Daytona 500. Now, just racing in general, it's probably the Indy 500, Rod. It really is the biggest race in the world. And then as far as like a farther down the board type of track that you'd want to win at, and I like, if we're sticking in the crown jewel range, I would pick a Southern 500 over the Coke 600 personally, because I think that's maybe even tougher than the 600 is because of the track, but that's another argument for another day. But if I was there, I'd like to win at a track like Kansas. I kind of consider that my home track, right? I grew up going there. I think that places like that would mean a lot to me if I was a driver, to win in front of your quote unquote home crowd and the track you grew up going to more than any other place.
So would that be Sonoma for me? Do I have to
Would
win?
it? I don't know.
Sonoma? I don't know. When I used to play the NASCAR games, road courses I hated the road courses.
Yeah, I suck at road courses. I try to avoid those on iRacing most of the time because I'm not good. So
it's mainly because I just want to have the gas down the whole time. Like, I don't want to lift, and if I have to lift into the corner, then I'm crashing. So it doesn't matter to me. But yeah, I definitely not a road course guy.
Okay, back to the YouTube chat for a few more questions here. What will NASCAR do if hurricane makes the racing impossible at Richmond? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I've not paid enough attention to know what the timing of the hurricane is. I don't know if you know at all, Rod. I mean, if they had to push the race to Monday or Tuesday, I think that they would do that if possible. If it ends up being where it's not possible to race at all, great question. Do they just cancel the race? Do they? I don't know. I really don't, because we've not been in a position anytime in the recent history. I mean, other than COVID, obviously, which is a different story, where we've had to like flat out cancel a race. We've pushed races to Monday or Tuesday. I mean, we've even done Wednesday before. I mean, that was common in the COVID era, of course, but even, for weather wise, I think once or twice it's been pushed all the way to Wednesday before. So I think they would try to do that before anything. But obviously, if the area gets hit with devastation and is unable to do it, I don't know if you try and move the race somewhere else, depending on how they could do that logistically and whatnot.
The only thing that I would think of, and like you said, I don't know that we've ever dealt with like a straight up cancellation. We've dealt with the delaying the race, but like how long?
Yeah, and like the only example I can really think of is New Hampshire in 2001. 9/11 happens, obviously, and they cancel the race that weekend.
Well, yeah.
They just ran the race at the end of the season, after the championship was decided, and they just ran the race then. But obviously, that's very extenuating circumstance, which a hurricane would be as well. But is that some type of an option? How excited would teams be and how easy would it be to race in Richmond, Virginia at the end of November too? I mean, I guess they did it at New Hampshire in 2001.
I don't think it's easy to race there in November.
So I don't exactly know how that would go. Boji Joe also said Carl Edwards drives the 7 car next year. A lot of people would love to see that. Not going to happen. Boji Joe also saying, will they redesign, tweak the car next year to fix the horsepower aero tight issues? They're always going to make tweaks to the car. I haven't heard as far as like if a certain manufacturer gets to change the body at all this year, or if they're still letting all of them do it. They'll try and change some stuff, and they'll have off-season testing. They usually do. How much they're able to change and how quickly they're able to change it, I don't know.
Well, and they're, like you said, they're always going to make tweaks and changes. Like there's never an off-season in which they don't do something to actually.
They constantly test throughout the offseason. They'll have tests where they're trying new things and working on different things, trying to get feedback. But it's not as easy as just, hey, we're going to change this and this should fix everything. I think they've got to just continue to throw darts at the wall until something really sticks.
Yep, indeed.
Johnny checking in. Hey, Johnny, nice of you to join us. Says, hey, in your opinion, who is the best sports book? I think that it's always
a trap. It's a trap. This is the guy's from a sports book. No,
is he really?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Well, which sports book do you work for? No. I think the best thing is to shop around if you can, right? And that's not always easy. It's not always fun or great to have money in MGM and FanDuel and Caesars and DraftKings and Bet365 and all these different places. I get that. I prefer to try and keep to a book or two if I can. I would say Bet365 and Caesars have the most variety of options. And 365 probably has the better numbers a lot of the times. But again, those aren't all both available everywhere. So if you've got Bet365, if you have Caesars, I think those are the best two as far as options go. We've noticed a lot more lately, and we talked about this a lot yesterday. FanDuel earlier in the week seems to have better numbers for the better. So I think that's one we're going to continue to watch a little more, and MGM can kind of sprinkle themselves in there as well. So yeah, that's kind of how there's not necessarily one go-to, but I will say I look at Bet365 and Caesars before anything else.
And exactly the same as Cody. Like my first bookmark when it comes to books is the Caesars, because that's the one that gives us the best. DraftKings is obviously good. The problem, Johnny, is that when you say what's the best sports book, it's always like there's no, when you're shopping for lines, there's no such thing as the best, because there's always somebody's got a better top 5 number over here. Someone's got a better outright over here. So the best sports book, Johnny, is the one that gives you the best odds.
Yeah, exactly.
The one that gives you the best odds.
Those are the ones that kind of stick out above the other ones, but don't necessarily, again, I don't know that there is a go-to. You have to have this one for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't have one for sure.
Mark Cobb checking in, saying, just saw the Atlanta Braves and Cincinnati Reds are supposed to play at Bristol in 2025. I don't know if you saw that, Rod. That news just kind of trickled out earlier today. They're going to have an official announcement on Friday. But yeah, they're going to play a baseball game inside of Bristol. They've done it before with the football game. I think it was Tennessee and Virginia Tech, maybe. Tennessee and Virginia, one of the two, I think, where they played the college football game inside of Bristol a few years ago. That was pretty sweet. I think it'll be pretty cool to see a baseball game inside of Bristol, too. It's man, it's such like a unique coliseum. Literally, it is a coliseum, right? And it's such a unique venue. To get these other sports in there, I think is really cool, and kind of, showcases to the other sports how cool of a place we have in Bristol.
Hey, we've already run races on college football stadiums. Might as well have a baseball game in a NASCAR stadium, right? I mean, I'm all for it. Before we know it, it's going to be like in basketball, where they're crossing sports, where they've got football players playing baseball players out there in the when the cross promotion doesn't work, cross sports was attempted. I want to see.
There you go. Yeah, you have the NASCAR guys play a baseball game while the MLB guys race a race, right? There you go.
Yeah.
Preston calling you, Rod, you lift, you lose via Gomez when you were talking about racing on the road courses. Preston says, Cody, don't say they canceled the race. My win total bets say all points races must take action. Yeah, that could be another disaster. And then Boji Joe bringing up, maybe Richmond becomes the championship. Yeah, I don't see, that would just fuck up the schedule too much as far as like with the playoffs. If it was a 36-point or race points thing, you could just tack it onto the end and it'd be fine. But now you've got the playoff format the way it is. That's the other thing too, is how do you eliminate a race prior to the playoffs? That kind of makes it tough, because then you're cutting out points chances, you're cutting out a race win chance. Oh boy, I don't know. Interesting there. So Johnny says, appreciated. Not sure I can use Caesars in the EU. All right. John, another overseas listener from Johnny there. Yeah, I don't know what all your options are over there. That's we might have to see if we can get some more input from some of our other international listeners. Boji Joe bringing up cornhole, golf.
I'd watch it.
Your brother says cup race in a dome. I think that
related?
We
are we related or what?
You are, because you've mentioned that before. Yes. I think it's possible. They do race like dirt races and stuff in domes, the Chili Bowl, that type of stuff inside. I think it's not out of the possibility in the future and down the road.
Thunderdome. I already said this. This is see, Nick. This is why, Nick. We're totally related.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys have any other questions, get them in now, because we're getting near the end. I do have a couple more questions going back to Preston over in the Discord, Rod, if you want to answer those.
Yeah, let's go. Got a couple. We got a little bit.
So he says Chicago has to go. You have to pick a new city to host a street circuit race. Where are we going?
San Francisco.
Ooh, I like it.
That would be the most difficult place to block. You think Chicago's difficult? Try blocking off any part of San Francisco at any part of the year. But I would think that would be fun. I mean, could you imagine racing across the Golden Gate?
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. I think that a place like New York City is kind of one of the obvious ones, because it's just one of the bigger cities. Again, a tough place. Boy, can you imagine racing through like Times Square? That would be pretty sweet. Like how beautiful that would be. JDK saying Vancouver, obviously the Canadian listener there. Boji Joe saying Long Beach. I wish they would team up with I mean, Vegas, it really is probably the one, right? Never going to get him to team up with F1, unfortunately, but team up with IndyCar. And like when IndyCar was racing the Nashville Street Race, that would have been perfect. Same with Long Beach or some St. Pete, some of these other places. Like if you're doing the street course thing, do it with IndyCar, make a weekend of it. It's already going to be blocked off anyways. And yeah, Bo Joe, see, we're thinking together right here. He says, I wish Indy and NASCAR would get together. I agree. I wish they would too. I do think a city like Denver would be pretty cool too. Something kind of different. It would be close enough for me to get there, so I would like that as well. But yeah, I think that would be kind of an interesting thing. And then Preston bringing up as well, Gateway Dirt Nationals in St. Louis are in a dome. Yep, that happens every winter as well. Another great thing there. And then, all right, one more question from Preston here. Your favorite racing memory can be in person or watched on TV, Rod.
I'm going to go back to the first, and not just because my brother is sitting here watching, but I think the very first race that I ever watched with my brother that got me actually into the sport itself, it was, like I said, the 2003 Daytona 500, 2004 Daytona. No, yeah, 2003 Daytona 500. I'd never paid attention to NASCAR before, never even decided that I wanted to like the sport. And I'm watching the Daytona 500 and I'm watching it get rain delayed. That was my first introduction into weather and NASCAR. Cause that was the one where Michael Waltrip won in a rain shortened race. But yeah, I mean, from there, like I picked Jimmy Johnson as my driver and the rest was history. So yeah, I'm going to have to go back to the very first one that I ever watched. That's my favorite memory because I was getting by my brother to a whole different world, which is why I'm here now.
Exactly. I love that one for you as well. I've got so many racing memories. And I mean, I literally started going when I was 2 years old every week with my grandparents. We had a rotation. Friday night, we'd go to Eagle, which is where I was at this past weekend. Saturday night, we'd drive over into Iowa, Adams County Speedway. Sunday, we'd go to Sunset until that closed. Moved over to I-80 Speedway, Nebraska Raceway Park, all that. So we just constantly were racing. And then we would go Truck Series at the time, raced at, this was pre-Kansas Speedway days. I-70 down in Kansas, so we'd drive down there and see that. Then when Kansas and Iowa were built, we'd go see the ARCA and Indy cars and everything. But they wouldn't take me to a Cup Series race until I turned 10. That was the thing, right? I had to wait until I was 10. They started telling me this at like 6 or 7 because I just wanted to go see a Cup Series race so badly. So my 10th birthday present took me to Charlotte for the whole week. We went up there. We got to go to the race shops, tour them, waited in line for 5 or 6 hours, I think, to meet Bill Elliott. Greatest day of my life as a child because he was my favorite driver. And then, yeah, we got to go to the Coca-Cola 600 at the end of the week. That's probably my top memory just because that, like, I had waited so long. And as a little kid, like, you know how long it is to wait a couple of years, like knowing it's coming and I just have to wait for my 10th birthday to get here. And that was the trip we got to go on. So that was my first in-person Cup Series race. And I would say that's probably one of my better racing memories. Mark Martin won in the Viagra car.
You gotta love that, and have that uncomfortable conversation back.
Yeah. What's Viagra, Grandpa?
Grandpa, what was the sponsor of Mark Martin's car? I don't get it. Well, you see, son. No, listen, I love that too. But that's like telling a kid, you know, Christmas is in 2 years, and you'll get your Christmas present.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't want to wait. I was, and like they were like, looking back, you probably, because I would just, like, I wasn't a kid that was ready to go. Like, I would sit there and watch the whole fucking thing. So I think that's what they had thought at first was, we don't want to take him when he's too young. You don't get to stay till the end, but that would have never been a problem for me with racing. But it was well worth the wait.
I want to answer this question real quick. Boji Joe saying, will NASCAR go international? No.
Yes, they will. Potentially as soon as 2026 for the Clash. Apparently there's been talks about going to... Yeah. Well, there's been talks about Brazil for the Clash in 2026. So NASCAR will for sure go international. Zero doubt in my mind about it. Canada, I mean, they tried to go to Canada this year, Rod. That's why Iowa ended up on the Speedway. They wanted to go to Canada to that road course. I don't remember what the road course up there is, but there was some logistical stuff that didn't work out, so they threw Iowa into the mix. It doesn't look like, from what Bianchi's dropped today, doesn't look like there's anything international on the 25 schedule, which maybe we'll dive into a little more tomorrow or later this week. But they will go international for sure. Mexico City could be in the future for sure. They've got, the NASCAR Mexico Series already that ran races, companion races with them in at the Clash, so that they kind of have that obviously it's a NASCAR series, so the partnership's already there, but the series have worked together before to put on events. So yeah, there will be multiple international things, which is not unprecedented. Dale Earnhardt raced in Japan in 1999, I think it was, when they flew the cars over there and had a race, when the sport was at its peak. So it will definitely be international in the next few years.
If Lightning McQueen can make the trip all the way out into Monaco, then definitely we can get it. I don't know. It's just, if it hasn't happened by now, I just feel like it's not a priority. It's probably one of those things where it'd be nice to get there, but we're not necessarily making that a priority right now. So yeah, I'm not too hip on it, but whatever. Only because, like I said, for me, it's just the logistic of traveling with all these guys already have a grueling schedule. I know F1 carries a lot of
F1 travels on the entire world, and it's less races. I get it, but they also have longer weekends. They're
and less drivers.
Yeah, true, but yeah, it's NASCAR. It's inevitable. They will be going international, so you better just accept it now because it's going to happen. One more question, Rod. Chiefs 22 over in the Discord had asked, what do you think about having Super Speedway in the playoffs? I'm guessing, we have 2 in the playoffs this year, so that's something, but I'm guessing he's meaning this new rendition of the 25 schedule has Talladega in the round of 8. So that's the only one. So Atlanta does get moved out. But so like this year in the 16 and 12, we have a Super Speedway in both, right? So next year it's looking like Talladega in the round of 8. So all you have to do is make it to the round of 8, Rod, win at Talladega, and you're in the championship 4. That kind of changes things a lot. I personally like it. I enjoy it. I think that Super Speedway racing is a part of the Cup Series as much as anything else. So I like the mixture. You've got Las Vegas in an intermediate track. You got Talladega Super Speedway. You got Martinsville, a short track. It's going to test you on all 3 different styles of, the only thing you don't have in there is a road course, which is fine. But it tests you on all 3 other styles of tracks that NASCAR have to get to that championship, to be crowned a champion. And it gives the possibility for that 8th best guy to be one of those 4, put on that Cinderella shoe. I like it.
So this goes to the larger argument of how many different track styles we're introducing into the sport. I mean, this, to me, if you're the best driver, you're not the best mile-and-a-half driver. You're not the best, short track driver. You're not the best road course. You're the best driver. And so to have all of those represented in the playoffs, it shows that you are the championship driver, not just the team that can hit the mile-and-a-half setups each and every week and just sort of float through the rest of the playoffs. No, you have to be the best driver, and NASCAR is forcing you to be able to drive in various different track styles. And so, yeah, to get to the end, sure as shit, you better have some sort of Super Speedway in there. You better have some sort of, now the only thing I wish they would have had is at least one road course in there, because again,
you still have the Roval in the playoffs, and it's actually, really, so the last 4 races you've got, or the last 5 races, Phoenix obviously ends it, but the 4 going into it is the Roval, Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville. So it is 4 completely different tracks leading in to Phoenix, which is even different from those 4. So, you can only fit 3 obviously into that final round, 3 races. So I think that's the best way to do it, is have, don't have 2 mile-and-a-halves in a short track. Don't have 2 short tracks in a mile-and-a-half. Have a mixture of 3 different things. If you're one of those final 8, you have to earn your way into it. And winning at Talladega is not easy. If it was easy, well, everybody would do it, right? And it's not. So, I think that it lays out actually kind of nicely, and I enjoy that.
Indeed. I have one more question for you. We have been together for 471 episodes, well over 2 years of time together, and we have never talked about music. We have never discussed music. You have a playlist that you've built. What is that playlist for you? Like, when you need to go and get into a good space.
So to be honest with you, not a massive music guy. Like, I am a podcast guy through and through. I will listen to podcasts all day long. My day job, I'm a beer salesman. So I'm spending a lot of time talking to people, but I'm also spending a lot of time in coolers, moving beer, stocking shelves. So I pop in the AirPod. I'm listening to podcasts there. I'm driving around a lot, from account to account, listening to podcasts nonstop. So most of my listening time is podcasts, to be completely honest with you. But when it comes to music, I'll listen to anything really. Country is my kind of go-to preference. Like if I'm going to flip something on, it's some country music. I do like that. But I'll listen to new country. I'll listen to old country. I like rock and roll. I'll listen to rap and R&B. My daughter subjects me to all the pop stuff. I don't necessarily like that as much. But I'll listen to it all. So I don't really, not a big music head, but I'll listen to anything.
So as a musician, and I've grown up around music my entire life, my mom would always drive around, and this was back in the 80s. So she'd be listening to the oldies, which was the 50s and 60s back then. So I grew up in the appreciation of all of that music. And then for me, I developed my own sense. I was listening to Van Halen back in the day, to Rat, to Kiss, to Warrant, to all of those hard rock bands. So for me, my go-to nowadays is that 90s stuff, though. I love the Counting Crows. I love Dave Matthews. However, I will tell you, I have a record collection back here that is just building itself up nicely. I've got myself some Garth Brooks. I just found No Fences. I've got Fleetwood Mac in there. I've got Green Day. I've got Weezer. I've got, all kinds of great stuff that I love. But however, my guilty pleasure as of late, and you probably turn off the podcast after this, but I was a big fan of Fiona Apple back in the day, right? Fiona Apple, just fantastic vocalist, fantastic lyricist. I'm digging Olivia Rodrigo because she's got a lot of that.
My daughter loves some Olivia Rodrigo, and it's look. There's some of the stuff is better than others, and I'll tell you that's one of the things that is better than the others. I don't mind as much when she's got that going on. So Laura checking in, by the way, too. She says hello, and she says country is king. There's your Fleetwood Mac. Is that Rumors album?
Yep, that's the Rumors album.
Very nice. Here's Laura saying Fleetwood Mac, so I'm guessing that's why you grabbed that.
That's why I grabbed
awesome.
That.
Yes. So yeah, that's a little music thing for you. But yeah, I'm definitely more of a podcast guy than I listen to way too many hours of podcast daily, even when I'm at home doing stuff around the house, whatever it is. There's the Garth Brooks, No Fences. This is for the visual people, obviously, listening over on the YouTube. But yeah, a lot of podcasts for me, for sure.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing too. I love podcasts, which is why I'm a podcaster. But yeah, sometimes my go-to podcasts are usually history podcasts and stuff that isn't sports related, because I talk so much sports and I watch so much sports that I need to hear something else other than sports every once in a while. So, all right, that's it. I think we've reached the end of all the questions. We've exhausted all of that and had some fun doing it. Cody, we would have said beginning of this that an AMA episode would be a normal hour length.
Ooh. I always get a little concerned because it's, people have to tune in live. Although you guys always tune in live, so I don't know why I get concerned about it. But we had a few questions beforehand, and we kind of talked about it before. We're like, yeah, we could find something to fill the show if we need to. No filler needed, Rod. You guys came big time with the questions, so we appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This is kind of an episode for you guys, right? Ask the questions, whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to know, and hopefully that answered some questions for you, filled you in. Hopefully the Truck Series odds will be up tomorrow so we can have a Truck Series show. Otherwise, it might end up being the DraftKings DFS show. Well, rest of the week is open, but we're back 3 more shows. We'll have underdog picks. We'll have DFS picks. We'll have Truck Series picks. And we're going racing this weekend, hopefully, if Debbie stays away. So I'm excited.
It's funny because Debbie's my mom's name. So
is it really?
Stay
in Colorado.
Stay in Colorado. I love it. All right, everybody, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you out there in the world of social media. As we say goodbye to everyone, and thanks again for asking all the questions.
Yes, we greatly appreciate all you guys. That's why we're 471 episodes into this, because you guys listen, and we appreciate you. So shout out to all of you. Follow me over on the X-Rod at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. I do have a NASCAR betting article up for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Tossed in another play or two that I didn't give out on the show there. And we were talking yesterday about some guys that wanted to find ways to get in on, but couldn't necessarily. Might have found an angle. So go check that out. And PLL picks will be out this week. All that fun stuff. A lot of NFL stuff around the corner also. So make sure you're staying tuned. Follow us as well at NASCAR Gambling. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Indeed. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's me playing all of my various records for you out there. That's what it's devolved into. My Twitter's essentially just
Rod tweets more about his records than anything else now. So.
I need a break every once in a while. But follow me there if you want to keep up with all of my shenanigans. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with hopefully trucks. So until then, let's go racing and let it ride.